They took $630 out of my pocket. Over 3 minutes. 3 minutes late. That's all it took for my boss to smile, shrug, and tell me I'd earned nothing. So I did exactly what their rules allowed. And in just a few weeks, I made sure the company earned almost nothing too. If you've ever been disrespected at work, underpaid, or treated like you didn't matter, hit subscribe right now. Like this video, settle in, and listen carefully because this isn't just revenge. This is what happens when greed meets someone with time, patience, and nothing left to lose. New York City has a way of grinding people down quietly. This was years ago, back when Bryant Park still felt like the heart of something alive. I worked at a large computer and electronics store just a few blocks away. Big floor, bright fluorescent lights, endless shelves stacked with box software, keyboards, monitors, and shrink-wrapped dreams of people trying to upgrade their lives one purchase at a time. From the outside, it looked like a decent job. Inside, it was a machine designed to squeeze every drop out of you. My base pay was $300 a week. That's it. Rent didn't care. Food didn't care. Subway fares definitely didn't care. The only way to survive was commission. On paper, it sounded fair. 10% of the profit on every sale. But here was the trick. You didn't get any commission unless you crossed that $300 threshold. Anything below it? Gone. Vapor. As if your effort never existed. Still, I told myself it was temporary. I worked hard, kept my head down. For months, I was stuck in the software department, selling games, antivirus disks, random utility programs, tiny margins, pennies of profit. Commission there was basically a myth people joked about during slow hours. Then one day, finally, they transferred me downstairs. That was where the real money lived. Computers, cameras, high-ticket items, customers pacing nervously, wallets sweating. This was where salesmanship mattered. And I was good at it. Not pushy, not slimy. I listened, asked questions, explained things like a human being instead of a script-reading robot. Customers trusted me, and they came back. The store had this special system. When you scan an item, it showed stock numbers and a strange coded line, something like H45S99. To customers, it meant nothing. To us, that was the true cost. $45.99. That's what the store paid. And because customers were allowed to haggle, you could choose how much profit the store made and how much commission you made. For the first time since I'd been hired, I felt hopeful. That week, I tracked everything. Every sale, every margin, every dollar. By the end of it, my notebook said one thing loud and clear. $630 in commission. I remember the feeling walking into work on payday. Not excitement, relief, groceries, bills, maybe even one small night where I didn't stress myself sick staring at the ceiling. I tore open the pay slip. $300, minus taxes. That was it. I stood there staring at the paper, convinced there had been a mistake. My chest felt tight. My ears rang. That buzzing panic that crawls up your spine when reality doesn't make sense. I walked straight to the office. The manager didn't even look surprised. He glanced at the screen, then at me, and said, casually, like he was reading the weather, "You punch in 3 minutes late on Tuesday." I blinked. Okay? For being late, you forfeit all commission. Company policy. Something cold settled in my stomach. 3 minutes, I said. I'm made over $600 for this place. He shrugged. A literal shrug. Rules are rules. That was the moment. Not anger. Not yet. It was something worse. The realization that I didn't matter at all. That no amount of effort, loyalty, or performance would ever outweigh their power to say no. I walked out of the office slowly. My hands were shaking. My jaw hurt from how hard I was clenching it. All that work, all those hours, erased. And that night, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling fan spinning like it always did, one thought kept repeating in my head. If commission doesn't matter to them, why should profit? Mini cliffhanger pause. Because the next 2 weeks, I followed their rules perfectly. And that's when the numbers started to change. The next morning, I walked into work with a calm I didn't recognize. not peace, not acceptance. It was clarity. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. The smell of warm plastic and dust filled the air like always. Customers wandered clueless, hands in pockets, eyes scanning price tags they already planned to argue with. Normally, that would have annoyed me. That day, I felt detached, observant, like I stepped outside myself and was watching a movie unfold. I clocked in exactly on time, not a second early, not a second late. And when the first customer approached me, middle-aged guy, nervous smile, looking for a laptop for his kid, I smiled back. He asked the usual questions. RAM, storage, price. I scanned the laptop. The coded line popped up. C78S10. $78.10. Retail price? $599. I felt my pulse slow. I remembered my manager's shrug. I remembered the word policy. And in that moment, I made a decision that felt almost surgical. I sold it to him for $78.50. He blinked. Really? I nodded. That's the best I can do. His face lit up like he just won the lottery. He shook my hand, thanked me 3 times, and walked out grinning like a kid himself. The system rang it through. Profit, 40 cents. Commission to me? Didn't matter. I felt something spark in my chest. Not joy, not rage, but control. The next customer came. A camera, at cost. Then another, at cost. By lunch. I'd already sold more big-ticket items than I usually did in a full shift. Word spreads fast in New York, especially when people think they've found a guy. By the end of the first day, I had repeat customers, people walking past other employees, waving me over like we were old friends. Hey, man, nobody else gives deals like you. I smiled. I nodded. I scanned items. At cost. At cost. At cost. Every time I entered price, I felt a small, quiet satisfaction. Not loud. Not reckless. Measured. The store was buzzing. Sales volume was up. Boxes were flying off shelves. Management smiled. They had no idea. The second week was when it got interesting. Customers started bringing friends. I told you about him. They'd say, pointing at me, this is a guy. Other employees noticed. One pulled me aside. Dude, how are you selling so cheap and not getting yelled at? I shrugged. Company policy. He laughed, thinking I was joking. I wasn't. Every day, I half expected someone to stop me, to question the margins, to pull me into the office. But nobody did. Why would they? Sales were happening. The floor looked busy. Numbers on the surface looked good, but underneath, I was draining the store one transaction at a time. By the end of week 2, I knew it was coming. I could feel in the air the way managers whisper more often, the way one of them hover behind the registers pretending to check inventory. Then right on cue, can you come to the office? I walked in calm, steady, almost bored. They were waiting for me with papers spread across the desk. Printouts. Every single sale I'd made over the past 2 weeks. The manager tapped the stack with a pen. Do you want to explain this? I leaned forward, pretending to read. Laptops, cameras, desktops, accessories, all sold, all profitable, except for one tiny detail. Total profit to the company, 32 cents. 32 cents. 2 weeks. Hundreds of sales. 32 cents. The room was silent. Finally, the manager said, "Why are you selling everything at cost?" I looked him straight in the eye, and I reminded him, calmly, politely, about that Tuesday, about those 3 minutes, about the $630 they decided I didn't deserve. I figured, I said, since commission doesn't matter, profit doesn't either. His face changed. Not anger. Fear. They didn't fire me. Not yet. Instead, they said, make sure this never happens again. I nodded and walked out. Mini cliffhanger pause. Because what they didn't realize was that I hadn't even reached the most satisfying part yet. That night, I slept better than I had in months. No racing thoughts. No tight chest. Just the quiet satisfaction of knowing I'd been heard, even if they didn't want to admit it. The next week, I went right back to work and did the exact same thing at cost. Every single sale. This time, I didn't rush. I didn't hide it. I wasn't reckless. I was precise. Customers kept coming. Some even waited for my shift to start. Management noticed immediately. 2 days in, I was back in the office. This time, there was no discussion. "You're done," they said. I nodded. No argument. No begging. I turned in my badge, walked out the front doors, and felt something lift off my shoulders the moment I hit the sidewalk. I didn't look back, but the story didn't end there, because a funny thing happened after I left. I kept in touch with a couple of coworkers. A week later, one of them called me laughing. "Dude," he said, "people are doing what you did." Apparently, once employees realized commission could vanish at any moment, they stopped caring. No commission? Sell at cost. It spread like a virus. Management panicked. And eventually, they repealed the policy. Too late. That location didn't last. Neither did the one on Long Island. Now, they're just a tiny hole-in-the-wall store. A shadow of what they used to be. And every time I pass Bryant Park, I smile. Did I single-handedly destroy the company? Probably not. But I know this. They learned that day that rules cut both ways. That people pushed hard enough, push back. And sometimes, the most powerful revenge isn't loud. It's quiet, calculated, and completely within the rules. Work should reward effort, not punish it. And respect, once broken, is nearly impossible to earn back. Sometimes, justice doesn't come from shouting. Sometimes, it comes from a receipt that reads $0 profit. If this story hit home, smash that like button. Subscribe for more real-life revenge stories where the system gets outplayed. And tell me in the comments, what's the most satisfying workplace revenge you've ever seen?